Wake up, get ready, time to shine, it's your day. Yeah. Join team together, making dreams come true.
Well, happy Tuesday, everyone. As we've kind of heard over the past few months and over the past few years, we are certainly navigating challenging waters as recruiters and professionals. Challenges across all industries, every corner of the United States and the world, quite frankly. And recently, here in the United States, we're maneuvering through new changes within the government and potentially understanding how our government colleagues fit into our own company's needs and our company staffing models. Despite all that turmoil, the changes of pace and keeping up with the news, one thing consistently remains constant. And people are people. They are not a bottom in a seat. They are just not a line on a payroll submission. They're not just a resume to fill the next contract and proposal submission. They are people, and they are people first. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised amongst the cornfields of Ohio. I met my husband in third grade when we were 8, and I will pause there so you all can say, ah. And to answer the question, we were not high school sweethearts. Why that's important. He took me on an adventure that I never thought that I would ever go on. I never thought I would leave Ohio. And shortly after 9/11, 30 days to the day, he joined the Army. And for the next 20 and a half years, we called the Army home. And as you can imagine, 10 different states, 10 different homes, those sorts of things. That all led, though, to me finding a passion to supporting transitioning service members and finding recruitment. I fell into it. So for the past 15 and a half years, I've been in recruitment within retail, hospitality, and IT. Personally, somewhere along the way, I spent 12 years as a traveling soccer mom, found a love of bourbon, wine, and scotch. Not all in that order and not all at the same time, I promise. I'm a complete lover of the outdoors, gardening one day, despite my husband's challenge or his woes. I will have chickens and at least a mini cow on a farm somewhere in West Virginia. And yes, I am a huge Ohio State Buckeye fan. So if you want to talk football, I'm here for you. That all leads to where I'm at now. And I started with TekSynap almost 8 years ago, and I was a team of one. I was brought in to support what was hoping to be a growing government contractor, and I was brought in, set up the processes. You are employee 76. We're quickly going to get to 100. Someday we'll hit 1,000. And over that time, we as a company and personally as a leader of a team, we've had to navigate those challenges, going from a small business to a medium-sized business, competing, growing. We're now over 1,200 people. Navigating my team growing. I started as a team of 1. We got as big as a team of 19, and now we're 14 people. And the thing that we've been challenged with most as a company, as well as a part of my team and as leadership on the team and within the company, is how do we continue to take care of the people as we grow, our teams get larger, and how do we take care of that? So a couple of things. I say all of this just to bring light that each team member and each candidate that you interact with has a story outside of that piece of paper, outside of that resume. And as recruiters, we want to appropriately find out what is beyond that resume. When I say appropriately, you're doing it legally, morally, and ethically, and you're not making HR mad. Like, we're following all the rules. But as a recruiter, there are 5 things that I think we can kind of get back to that root when we're working with our team members and we're working with those candidates. And it's remembering first and foremost that everyone is a recruiter. You and your team represent the company, no matter if you're on the clock or off the clock. You are a representative of the company that you are currently supporting. The positive behind that is you are that representative. The candidate is also a recruiter for you. They had a positive experience, they're going to tell others. And that is that good old word of mouth recruitment. And that is my favorite piece of recruitment. Recruitment's a two-way street. Interviewing or conversations, initial calls, whatever you might call them, they go both ways. That conversation should be mutual. And long after you or the candidate has started on site or on the team, they are still interviewing for that next role, even if they or we don't even realize it. They're interacting with other team members. They're interacting with other departments. And if you're lucky enough, someone might get stolen away because they made such a great impression on another team. As Matt said earlier in our sessions together, recruitment is selling. Find out what is important to that candidate. What do they want? What do they need? Can you honestly provide this to them? And if you can't, who can? Can you network them somewhere else? Can you pass them along to a counterpart? Can you give them to another department? This is my favorite. Go with your gut. Been in recruitment a really, really, really long time. I got burnt a couple of times because I first recruited with my heart. People pulled on those heartstrings and I just bought in and I just went with it. And then sure enough, it wasn't the most opportune candidate or the most opportune experience. So go with your gut. Watch those red flags, because the moment that you do recruit with your heart, it's going to be an uh-oh moment and you're going to have some explaining to do. And then closing. Closing is that real art. You're using these things that you've learned during that conversation when you get to that extending of the offer. What drives them? Why do we want them to take this offer over a different offer that might be out there? What can we give them that they said during that interview? What benefit are they looking for? I love to find my closers. If I know I'm going to have that hard sell, the making that offer or getting that candidate to sign, I find my closers. And those are the people within the company and my team who are those model employees. They can have an additional down-to-earth conversation, kind of re-engage with the conversations that have already been had and really drive home the fact that this is where you want to be. This is the position that you want. This is the team that you want to be a part of. Oops. Hold on. There we go. So people are people. They're people first. And hopefully you've heard about the 5 love languages. Personally, I feel these can be converted appropriately into your candidate conversations, into the workplace with your team members. And this is how you tend to your art. It's how you tend to your flock. Get to know people and what makes them go, what drives them, what matters, what makes them a person first. And we'll start up there in that upper left-hand side with that personal touch. You have some individuals that are just looking for that handshake in the morning or that handshake as they walk out the door, a pat on the back, possibly even honing in on a detail from your candidate conversation and sending a follow-up. So, for example, during that conversation, you learned that outside of that, again, that piece of paper, you learned they were really passionate about extending their education and some training. Follow up with a quick email. Send them an email with your benefits package that includes a blurb on the tuition reimbursement that your company may offer. Personally, I had a candidate, this has been about 2 years ago, who he had to reschedule a conversation. We were scheduled to speak. He had to reschedule it very, very last minute. No worries. We rescheduled. We got on the call and he profusely apologized. I said, no worries. We're here talking now. It's not a big deal. What he hadn't let me know is that his dog had passed unexpectedly. And yes, I have dogs. They're not going to they will not make an appearance in the presentation. But I was like, oh my goodness, that's so bad. So as my team would tell you, I am a writer of notes. I like to send handwritten notes. I think it's a little bit of a dying art. I still do it. And so I just happened to have a sympathy card on my desk, wrote him out a little note after the conversation and threw it in the mail. And here we are 2 years later. No, I have not hired him yet, but about every 6 months we re-engage and we're just nurturing that relationship. Moving down into the center, that's words of affirmation. You have those individuals that they want to hear that they're doing a good job. They don't want to see it in writing necessarily. They verbally want to hear it. So telling people, great job, whether that might be in person, on video, providing that praise in public or private. Know the person and know what they will appreciate. Someone that is very private will not like you going out in front of 1,500 people and pulling them up on stage and telling them good job. On the candidate side, calling that nervous candidate before their interview, giving them a pep talk, kind of walking them back through the conversations that you've already had, the position, the team, the people that they're going to speak with, walking them back through the website. As you move kind of down to that lower right-hand corner, it's those acts of service. Assisting a counterpart or a team member with a project, a task, lending that hand of support. With a candidate, just being friendly, responding to an email, assisting and providing requested advice. I'm sure we all can just go out to the message boards right now and see how many people are not doing these things for as a recruiters, how many people are talking about that recruiter didn't do this, the recruiter did that. Be the person that does those things and you will be remembered. Giving that quality time as we move up to the upper right-hand corner. Listening without interruption. I will tell you that I have a hard time with this. I have a lot of ideas, I have a lot of thoughts, I have a lot of opinions. This is the one where I have to bite my tongue. Listen, but listen. Conducting an initial call or interview that lasts longer than 10 minutes and has some substance. Giving that candidate the time. And then we move to the other side of the affinity symbol in the lower left-hand corner, and we talk about tangible gifts. This is a little harder depending upon the appetite that your own company has for this, your own budget. For team members, it could just be a small chocolate bar, making their coffee, an extra monetary bonus if that's something that your company can do. On the candidate side, it becomes a lot harder because we all know what the gift that they're looking for. It's the job offer with the desired salary that they put on paper of $1 million a year, right? But it's important to know what drives those individuals, whether it's personal touch, words of affirmation, those service acts that you can make, just giving that person time. You have to stay creative and you have to stay inquisitive. Do what others are not and treat people as people. It's an infinity sign for a reason. Your job in these areas never stops. It is a continuous evolvement of figuring out what people want and what people need. Just like tending to your flock, it never ends, but it is the one task that could get lost as you grow as a team, scale as a company, life and work get in the way. You forget about these types of things. I'll certainly be the first to say that I am not the best at it. I know it needs to be done. I talk about it. But each day I recognize each day is a new day to start over. If I didn't do well today, I can start over again tomorrow, and giving yourself grace. From experience, the hardest language or the hardest task to do is the one that you do not align with. So if you are, we'll just say if you're a tangible gifts person and you have teammates who seek words of affirmation, this may be the area that you really have to focus on in order to accomplish your goals. Learn your team, learn your candidates, learn what works for them, and know that what works for one team member may not work for the next. As I said, we're a team of 14 now, and I have individuals that fit in every single one of those categories. As you're going through that, there are 5 things which can help you. Do intentional check-ins. Check in when things are good, when things are challenging, or it's just a random Tuesday. But don't be robotic just because you can say, I checked the box. Kearstin said I needed to do things. Check, I did it today. People know when you're doing that. They pick up on that. You need to be intentional. Nurture the relationships, both your team members, of course, and your candidates. Relationships can be roller coasters. With a candidate, it might take 6 check-ins before they say, yep, let's talk, or I'm ready to move. Just like a garden, you have to continuously tend to those relationships. And I'm going to say that I really would love to get rid of the phrase, keeping the candidate warm. They are not a piece of chicken under a warming lamp at a restaurant. Trying to change that maybe to we are staying engaged. We are keeping in touch and make sure that you're maintaining that relationship. Understand your challenges. How can you help? Does the person want advice? Is someone in your network better suited to assist them with the challenge that's being set forth with them? So I love groups like this because I may not have the answer, but I know that I'm a LinkedIn message or an email or a text message away from a whole group of people that I can just text and say, hey, anybody have any ideas on X, Y, and Z? And I'm probably going to get 4 or 5 different responses. With candidates and your team members, talk about career progression. What is their goal? What do they want to do? Is there a certification or training that they would benefit from? Maybe there's someone else in your network that you can connect them with. Thirst for knowledge. I lifelong learner here. And most importantly, do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to follow up or you're going to help on a task, follow through, help with the task, give them that piece of advice, help with their slide deck, do whatever it might be, because people will remember that you did you did what you say you were going to do. This slide is really, it's candidate specific, but it's things that we can ask ourselves as individuals to play into that candidate experience. Why do you stay? Why does the passive candidate want to stay? And what do you offer that's different than the experiences they've had in the past, the job that they have now, or the company that they're currently supporting? Recruiter.com tells us that people stay because of competitive salaries. Makes sense, right? Total compensation packages. They like the culture fit. And that's not something that you can assess it ahead of an interview or ahead of conversations and during conversations, but you don't really know about anything about that culture until you're in there. Their relationships with their coworkers. I would say that relationships with management and leadership fall into this as well. Flexibility that they may or may not be able to be provided. Educational benefits came up quite a bit in this same survey. And Gen Z and millennials, and specifically on the Gen Z side, they stay when they have a seat in the room, or because they have a seat in the room. Not because they have a seat at the table, but because they have a seat in the room, and it gives them an opportunity to learn and grow from others. They want to be very well-rounded and not stuck in a box. So lastly here, I want you to look at those 3 questions. What makes you or your company stand out? Why do candidates call you when they're looking? And why do your coworkers come to you when they need assistance? Just those first 3. If you can answer anything really to those 3 questions, you are already starting that tending your flock. Keep it up. Figure out how you can continue to nurture and feed your candidates, your fellow professionals, your teammates, and your company. How can you help your company evolve and continue to tend to the current workforce and engage and tend to the future talent and candidates? But remember, it never ends. It evolves just like the environment around us. And we just have to keep thinking outside of that box.